Good evening. Good evening. Yes, here we are at the State of the City address 2019. How many of you are excited to be here? You know, it was just a couple of years ago, Mayor Rolison, that I stood up here introducing, it was a ton of different folks, a ton of different elected officials doing the inauguration. And so here we are again at the lovely Changepoint Church. So let's first of all thank all of the pastors and all of those who allowed us even to be here. Let's give them a hand. And so in 2016, when Mayor Rolison took office, there was a very simple but clarion call. He said, "The buzz is back." How many of you remember that? Can we say that together? The buzz is back. And so I would like to welcome you up on behalf of our Honorable Mayor Rolison to his 4th State of the City address. And so we're going to begin by having our presentation of colors with our retired U.S. Colonel, Army Colonel, Mr. Bascom Durham, and then our beloved Chief Mary Wagner, who spearheads the Poughkeepsie High School ROTC the junior cadets. So let's bring them forward at this time.
Please stand for the presentation of the colors by Poughkeepsie Air Force Junior ROTC Cadets Hamilton, Little, Withrow, and Fagan, and the singing of the national anthem by Poughkeepsie High School senior Helen Ibarra.
Colors, pose!
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glared, the bombs bursting
Let's give the Poughkeepsie City School District Junior ROTC a hand, as well as U.S. Army Colonel Durham and Chief Wagner. My name is Felicia Watson. You can be seated. My name is Felicia Watson, and I'm a lifelong resident of this absolutely beautiful city, the city of Poughkeepsie, New York. Lifelong resident of this great city. At this time, I would like to bring up the Reverend Walter Lafleur of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Poughkeepsie.
Spirit of life and love, known by many names and by none at all, be with us this evening. May your presence be among us. May your spirit of love and acceptance be felt by all. For this is a community that is home to many, both loved and cherished, a community still in search of its future, a community with history, living into its present time and place. Guide us all as we step into our tomorrows with hopes and expectations, wants and needs. May we become ever more aware of who our neighbors are, more willing to listen and hear their dreams of who they are and who we are becoming. May we be more attentive to those with needs greater than our own. May the spirit of love guide our work, our concerns, and our everyday actions. Amen.
We thank Reverend Lafleur for the opening prayer. So, the time is at hand. But before we bring our Honorable Mayor to the podium, there's a couple things that I want to say. Just 4 years ago, when I look at the state of the city, and again, I reiterate that I'm a lifelong resident. When I looked at the state of the city and I look at where we are today, my heart is gladdened. When I look at the transformation, the revitalization that has happened with the mayor and then the wonderful Common Council, it gives me great hope. There's an adage that says, without hope, there's only emptiness between the cry of a newborn babe and the closing of a casket. And so what Mayor Rolison, Mayor Robert G. Rolison, and the Common Council has done is they've reinvigorated things within this great city. There is great hope that we have. So I am a member of the Poughkeepsie City School District Board of Education. And one of the adages that has been resounding this year for us is that we are stronger together. We are stronger together. And that adage can segue right over into the city of Poughkeepsie as we look at all that's going forth, all of the hope that we now see. For there's a rising that has happened through this buzz, and it's happened under Mayor Robert Rolison's leadership. Of course, no person is an island unto him or herself. We all have to do this together. And without a shadow of a doubt, we are moving in that direction. How many of you believe that? And so it's been said that there's only 3 types of people when it comes to action. Those who wait for things to happen, those who watch things happen, and those who make things happen. And so I'm excited to bring forth the man of the hour, a man who I respect. You'll see him in the classrooms in the Poughkeepsie City School District, as well as in Delafield Street, as well as in some of the other echelons, the CIA and those types of places. I call him the mayor of the people. And so it gives me great privilege to bring to the podium the Honorable Robert G. Rolison. Make some noise up in here. Oh, you can do better than that. Oh, you can do better than that. There you go. Now we're talking. That's right. Now you're talking. Oh, maybe, I think you could do a little better. There you go.
You want to stay up here for a little while? And that was Lorraine Johnson with the shout out before. I want to say what an honor it is to be here tonight to speak to all of you about the state of this great city. But before I do that, I want to thank my good friend and colleague, Dr. Felicia Watson, who is the example of what someone who cares about a community looks like, and let's give her a big round of applause. I want to thank Bascom Durham, Chief Mary Wagner, and the junior ROTC cadets of Poughkeepsie High School. I want to thank Helen Ibarra for singing the national anthem. She has an unbelievably wonderful voice. I want to thank my friend and neighbor, Walter Lafleur, for the opening prayer. And what you said rings so true about this community, this city, this region, and quite frankly, Reverend, this world. We all can do so much, but we need to do it together, and we need to remember our neighbors and our friends, and we also need to remember and reach out to people we don't even know. And I think that's just as important. We have quite a few elected officials and their representatives tonight that are here. I want to start by recognizing our two city court judges, the Honorable Frank Mora and Scott Volkmann. Welcome tonight, Judge Volkmann and Judge Mora. A good friend, Paige Banfield, who's representing Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney, is here with us tonight. Another longtime friend, before he was even in this position, who represents our state comptroller, Tom DiNapoli, Matt Martini. Matt, thank you. Dutchess County District Attorney William Grady is here tonight. Mr. Grady, Bill, thank you. Deputy County Executive Bill O'Neill, Assistant County Executive Ron Hicks from the County Executive staff are here tonight. Thank you very much, Bill and Ron. Another really great friend of mine who I probably would have not got to know if I hadn't become the mayor of this great city is Mayor Steve Noble of Kingston, who was sitting right over there. We work together all the time with the mayors of Beacon, and Middletown, and Newburgh together, share the same challenges, we share the same concerns, and we also share the good times together, what it means to be a mayor. And I am really finding that out. And Steve and I came in together in 2016. And as we said, as Kingston goes, Poughkeepsie goes, and as Poughkeepsie goes, Kingston goes, and vice versa. And I said that when they got the DRI. And I continue to say that, Steve. And thank you for being here. Legislator Barbara Jeter Jackson is here tonight, and let's give her a round of applause. Barbara, thank you. Our county executive is here, but he's got to leave. He has to go to Pleasant Valley, where he is holding one of his town hall sessions tonight, which starts, I think, in probably 10 minutes, Mark. I had remarks within the address that I will give to all here assembled about you later, they are very complimentary. I'll say that while you're still here. Because you do so much, not only for this county, Mark, but for this city. We have been so lucky and blessed that not only have you given of yourself, you've given of your staff, and all the resources that Dutchess County has to help the city, and I want to thank you very much for that. As Dr. Watson said, she talked about the Common Council. These are my colleagues, these are my friends, these individuals are so important to this city. And tonight we are joined by Councilman Chris Petsis of the 1st Ward, Councilperson Sarah Salem of the 2nd Ward, Councilperson Lorraine Johnson of the 3rd Ward. Yeah. That's what I like to hear. And you can do that throughout too, please. My Councilperson Sarah Brandon from the 4th Ward, Councilperson Yvonne Flowers from the 5th Ward, Councilperson Natasha Cherry from the 6th Ward. I know that Randall Johnson could not be here tonight, but I see that his mother is in the audience. Gwen, thank you for being here. In the 8th Ward, Matt McNamara, he is on a vacation with his daughter, Roxy. And also I want to recognize, and I don't know if she is here at this point, our chair of the Common Council, Ann Finney. Let's give them a round of applause, please. We were notified just the other day that we were going to have 2 very special guests. I don't know if they're here yet. I hope they do make the trip up from New York City. But we had a really great meeting not too long ago with the staff and members of the consulate of the country of Mexico in New York City. There was a delegation that came down both from the county and the city, and we met with the Mexican Acting Consul General, Vivian Juarez Mondragon, and also the Counsel for Political Affairs, Jorge Armando Tudon. So they're coming tonight, and if they're here, we'll get a chance to see them in just a little bit. And I want to apologize to everybody because I have a cold, so I have the sniffles, and I don't want to, if I do sniffle, at least you know I told you in advance. So I want to thank everybody for coming to such a fabulous venue for this year's State of the City. And thank you to Pastor Marlo Dunham and Jacques Patel, who is in the back, for hosting us. It is so fitting to be here at Changepoint this year because it's a real anchor in our community, right downtown, with its doors open and welcoming everyone of all faiths and backgrounds. Changepoint is not just non-denominational, it is multicultural, it is inclusive, and it is here tonight that we take stock of what community really means, the challenges we face together, our shared goals and hopes for the coming year beyond. And if anyone is interested in learning more about Changepoint, you can go to changepointtheater.com. This has been an extraordinary year in Poughkeepsie, and I'm privileged to stand before you this evening and report on the state of this great city. Without doubt, it has been the work of the last several years that brings us to where we are today. And tonight, I ask you not only to consider our progress, but to consider how our great city is poised for a revitalized and reinvigorated future. A Poughkeepsie more able to address the needs of its citizens, to attract and welcome more visitors, and to be more attractive to new business and employers. And carefully crafted development, and most importantly, within reach of our highest goal, a safer, more inclusive city. I also want to recognize Lydia Biskup, who is sitting right there, who is representing Senator Sue Serino. Lydia, thank you very much. Sorry I forgot you. Now, with the stabilization of the city's finances came the first chance in nearly a decade to make measured but vital investments in city government. We started with and will continue to focus on public safety. I want to take this opportunity to briefly address a recent incident involving a city police officer that has garnered much attention within the community. The city takes these situations with utmost seriousness and gravity. We hold our law enforcement officers in high regard, but we also hold them to the highest standard. Maintaining the trust of this community is essential to providing public safety, and I commit to maintain that trust. We've done significant work in the past year when it comes to public safety. We implemented a program to address longevity of our police officers who are leaving our department in favor of higher-paying positions in neighboring communities. This retention program brought our police salaries in line with our peers, while reducing the city's cost of health care, which is one of our toughest expenses to combat. We also eliminated vacant but funded positions and moved those budgeted funds into salary schedules for the out years, providing real incentives for our police officers to stay longer. Between 2016 and 2018, 33 officers left our employ due to retirement or for higher paying positions. But since our retention program was implemented, we've hired 9 officers and we've lost 0. Thank you. Now, even better, of the 9 we recently hired, 4 actually transferred in to us, and they're already trained and ready to get to work. And we're going to be hiring an additional 6 officers who will be entering the police academy in just 2 weeks. Imagine if we hadn't done that. When I took office as your mayor, our officers hadn't had a contract in 3 years. We asked for help from New York State's Financial Restructuring Board to resolve that long-standing problem, and we got that help. Not because we just asked, but because we wrote a turnaround plan that decision makers in Albany believed in. Today, our police department is nearly fully staffed, and a return to community policing and increased foot patrols are no longer just wistful thoughts of years past, but these are real conversations about our immediate future. And tonight, I am pleased to announce that because of our increased staffing levels in our department, the city's previous COPS grant award can be reactivated this year, bringing back to the city over $680,000 in federal funds for police officers. I want to thank Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney and Senator Charles Schumer, who kept that funding alive for us more than 3 years while we worked to reach the targeted staffing level that the grant requires. Now, we arrive at this point, having done the things we have, better able to address the issues that matter most to you. We got here because we worked together. Our Common Council was engaged in the process. They asked the right questions, and they worked with the administration and the police union to set priorities for needed improvements and modern technology within the department. This year, the 2019 budget funds body cameras for our police officers, and Chief Pape and the command staff are already working on procurement and implementation. We will roll out this program this fall. In 2018, our city's fire department saw its busiest year in over 120 years of service to our community. It's driven by a significant increase in both commercial projects and the uptick in residential housing projects. The fire department responded to more than 5,000 calls for service, that representing a 16% increase in a single year. Now, we expect this trend to continue as more than 1,000 residential units and multiple commercial projects are at various stages of completion here in the city. As we saw with our police department, the success of our financial stabilization efforts, took hold in time for us to begin investing in our fire department again. Since 2017, we've added 2 firefighters and promoted 3 firefighters to lieutenant. Equipment has also been upgraded, adding 2 new command vehicles, upgrading our Clover Street firehouse with new windows and new flooring, and electrical upgrades, and at our Hooker Avenue firehouse, a new boiler, a new water heater, and an all-building generator. Grant funding, always important, also allowed us to purchase new protective gear for our firefighters. Now last year, this is something we're really proud of, our fire department personnel conducted 375 inspections throughout the city, leading to important upgrades that makes our community safer. We conducted 40 fire safety classes at our schools and daycare centers, making our children safer and introducing them to one of the most respected professions in America. Imagine if we hadn't done that. Our firefighters' training, skill, and bravery led to the successful rescue of a woman trapped in that building collapse on Academy Street on June 18th of last year. Unfortunately, the city also experienced its first multiple fatality fire in 18 years last year, as 4 individuals lost their lives in a fire at an abandoned building also on Academy Street. We are redoubling our efforts to address vacant and abandoned buildings in our city. For many years, the city did not have the resources to tackle this problem. Now, we do. Beginning in 2018, with the establishment of an anti-blight task force, we've cleaned up, secured, or demolished more properties than at any point in our city's history. Newly hired code enforcement officers are on our streets taking action. We've hired an additional sanitation inspector and deployed new technology, all while building stronger partnerships with our nonprofit housing partners, such as Habitat for Humanity, Rebuilding Together, and Hudson River Housing. For 30 years, Hudson River Housing has been working in our community and in the region. Tonight, I'd like to recognize and thank their executive director, Krista Hines, along with a great team that is making a huge difference in our city. Krista, would you please stand up and be recognized? Thank you. And thank you to all our housing partners for your work on our anti-blight task force. Our new approach to systematically attacking blight in our city is working, and progress can be seen throughout the city. One of the most visible examples is the city's recent taking of the former YMCA building on Montgomery Street. For years, our Ys were a part of the social fabric of our city, and so many of our residents still hold fond memories of their own time there, including me. For nearly a decade, the Montgomery Street property has stood at an important and historic corner, slowly deteriorating. It was time for us to act. Today's city government will no longer stand by while legacy problems continue to fester for far too long. Next week, we will begin a lengthy public comment period to listen to our residents, our faith-based organizations, and our nonprofits, and others about what's the best plan for redevelopment or perhaps rehabilitation of that property. We will be issuing a request for expressions of interest to the development community and all of our stakeholders, from hospitals and colleges to the community foundations and others, which may find natural connections between their own missions and some of the ideas we hope to hear in the coming months. We know that attacking the problem of vacant and abandoned properties requires a multifaceted approach that strategically cultivates private sector investment while at the same time protecting asset access to affordable housing. That's why we're excited about the opportunity to partner with the county in establishing a land bank here in the city of Poughkeepsie. Many of our goals and objectives for the coming years demand greater community outreach and engagement with our residents in order to assure we all have the opportunity to contribute to the important decisions that are before us. And to that end, it is our responsibility to make our local government more responsive and inclusive. Our city charter created a legislative branch comprised of 8 council members, each representing their own ward here in the city, and 1 member elected at large to chair the council and set the agenda and move that agenda forward. But carving our small city into wards doesn't necessarily assure equal representation. Equal representation is only achieved when there is an equitable distribution of government resources. How do we foster equity in our city? We do it by doing a better job of listening. We need to do more to engage constituencies that have had less of voice in civic affairs, yet they contribute so much to our community. Now, tonight, I am pleased to announce the appointment of the city's first Director of Community Engagement, who, in partnership with Dutchess County, thank you to the county executive, assumes an extraordinary role at an extraordinary time. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome John Penny to the team at City Hall. John is known to all of us, reporting fairly and providing editorial context at the Poughkeepsie Journal for decades. He will not only bridge divides between us, but his real mission is one that seeks to match the needs of the community with the ability of government to address them. I know John will serve the city and the county with distinction and will help harness our collective resources as we shift to a more outcome-based approach to local government. Now, we also recognize the city school district and it's undertaking a search for a new superintendent, and we look forward to actively, Dr. Watson, participating and assisting the district in any way that we can. I know we talk about that all the time, but I wanted to say it again tonight. We realize the futures of the city and the school district are intertwined. And I want to give my thanks and acknowledgement to my friend, Acting Superintendent Kate Farrell and her team, along with the Poughkeepsie City School Board members, and let's give them a big round of applause for what they're doing for this community. So as Dr. Watson had said, I love spending time in the schools in this city. Today I was over at Morris Elementary School with 125 second graders as they were learning about financial literacy. Last week, it was about agriculture literacy at Clinton. And I do enjoy all of that. It is the most important and fun part as serving as mayor when I get the honor of being around our youth. When I get to engage with them, I realized what a tremendous impact we have on them. And the one thing is, when you meet them, they don't forget you, ever. So it's our responsibility to lead by example, with civility and respect. Our kids deserve it. That's why I created a new youth grant program in 2008 with the approval of the Common Council That's why we increased funding for youth in 2019, and that's why I plan to ask the Common Council once again to increase that grant funding in 2020 for youth programs here in the city of Poughkeepsie, which are so important to the future of this city and its youth. While funding youth programs is important, we must also do a more exacting job of conveying to children and their parents about the existing youth programs that currently exist by various and talented organizations, many are represented here tonight, and how they can get to them. That's really important. Let's talk about grants for a minute. Also important. They're important to our own mission. For the last 3 years, we've seen a steady increase in grant revenue from a wide variety of sources. Throughout our financial recovery, Dutchess County has been a steady partner in many of our successful endeavors. And if Mark was sitting there, I would say tonight I'd like to recognize and thank my good friend, our county executive, Marcus Molinaro. Mark, as I said before, I want to thank you for your commitment to Poughkeepsie. Not only is he a dear friend, he's also one of the hardest working leaders I know. And he has built the most professional team in county government anywhere in the state. And I'm also going to tell you, and I've told this to Mark, how lucky we are to have you back in this county and in this city. Now, today I can report to you that the city has more partners, more stakeholders, and more investment going on than we've seen in years. In just the last year, we have received millions of dollars in grants from the state of New York, from $2.4 million for pedestrian safety, $1.2 million for green infrastructure projects in downtown, to $1 million to rehabilitate the historic trolley barn on Main Street. Private developers and businesses have also been awarded millions of dollars in the past couple of years, from $1.2 million for the Hive project on the corner of Academy and Church, to $2 million for the Poughkeepsie Landing project on the southern waterfront, to over $1 million for Northside manufacturers expanding their business. Grant revenue is up in the police department as well, with nearly $1.3 million in grants, supporting things like our behavioral evaluation action team, which is now in its second year, to $50,000 for a comprehensive study of our 911 system. It's a long list, and we're very proud of it. Not only because higher grant revenue helps keep taxes down, it's because these awards validate all of our work. They tell us others have increased confidence in city government, and in particular, how we handle our finances. Our commitment to strong financial management and fiscal responsibility is the bedrock of many of our accomplishments. We've continued to implement cost-cutting and restructuring initiatives that have allowed us to stay under the tax cap for the last 2 years, while still putting more resources into our Department of Public Works. And I want to thank the DPW guys that are in the back. Let's give those guys a round of applause. I think that's Cy, Chippy, Paulie, and Georgie. Thank you. So we can restore programs that manage the care for our city's trees, pave our streets, and repair our sidewalks. Imagine if we hadn't done that. 3 years of general fund surpluses have boosted our city's bond rating outlook from negative to stable. Thank you. And we know that further upgrades are going to come as we reduce our deficit and remain good stewards of taxpayers' money. This is another area where I want to thank the Common Council for its diligence as it exercises its responsibility as our appropriating body. I want to particularly thank Councilmember Yvonne Flowers of the 5th Ward and Councilmember Natasha Cherry of the 6th Ward for their work on the city's Finance Committee. Thank you both. I also want to thank our Commissioner of Finance, Bill Brady, and the entire budget team for their consistently great vision and clarity when it comes to the city's $90 million annual budget. Bill and the finance team, Karen, Regina, thank you. I also want to thank the council for all the work they did on this year's budget. This year's budget passed unanimously, proving once again we can come together and speak with one voice when it comes to the well-being of our city. Absolutely. Recently, the city made its last payment, some $960,000 on bonds we've been paying for more than a decade. And just this month, again, with the approval of the unanimous Common Council, we refinance some other outstanding bonds into more favorable rates. This transaction alone will save the city $1.2 million over the next 12 years. Lowering our debt service costs will further improve our credit rating, which will save the city millions more. And last year, I also pledged we'll be developing a strategy to beautify our parks and make some much-needed investments in them. Now, under the sound guidance of Superintendent of Parks and Recreation, Brian Laffin, we've undertaken a deeper review and have discovered that the challenges are more considerable than initially thought. We do remain, however, fully committed to funding this initiative, and will be sending a bonding resolution for the council to consider later this year. I am also pleased to report that our city's conversion to a new multi-million-dollar reservoir located atop College Hill Park is now in the final stages of completion. And discussions, and this is really cool, and discussions have begun on the possibility of repurposing our current reservoir that has been used for nearly 100 years. Now, water quality and protection of our drinking water at its source is a top priority for our city. The city, along with 6 other riverfront communities, got together to further that mission. We're called the Hudson 7, and it is called the Hudson 7, and it's an example of new collaborations. And I want to thank Dan Shapley, who is sitting right there, from Riverkeeper, for leading this effort. Thank you, Dan. And I also want to mention the fine work being done by Poughkeepsie-based Scenic Hudson, which is taking a particular focus on the Fawkill Creek and the north side of the city of Poughkeepsie. Steve Rosenberg, thank you for your team and all you're doing at Scenic Hudson. So last year, and I did not know this till about 3 months ago, MSN.com ran a fun and light-hearted story about underrated towns across the county. I think that's probably supposed to be the country, because we're not underrated in the county, that's for sure. And I guess what they did is they named Poughkeepsie the most underrated town in New York State. So there you go. However, they did say that Poughkeepsie is hard to spell but easy to love, and I agree with that, right? So the city is getting the recognition that it deserves. And judging by the amount of development interest we've seen, the investment community is clearly taking notice of that as well. By our estimation, the city is experiencing unprecedented levels of investment, including more than $1 billion in development projects. We are seeing growth in industries such as the manufacturing sector, which is really important, where cutting-edge employers like MPI and Koshi America, both located on Smith Street on the city's north side, are expanding their operations to meet growing demand. And growth means jobs. This is a really good fact as well. Jobs in the arts and entertainment sector, though a small portion of overall jobs, they have grown by 144% since 2002, and we expect that trend to continue. So thanks to everybody in the arts community and then goes out and visits the arts community. And of course, our healthcare industry is moving forward. It continues its remarkable growth. Nearly 16,000 jobs in this industry are located within 10 miles of the city. 40% of that 16,000 are right here in the city. And we've all been watching in awe as Vassar Brothers Medical Center's new patient pavilion is taking rise. It's the largest construction project in the county's history. And with a variety of medical specialists and urgent care facilities, Poughkeepsie has become a regional center for healthcare and is only growing. Last fall, Marist College and HealthQuest announced their plans to establish a new medical school next to HealthQuest flagship hospital here in Poughkeepsie. Planning and design is already underway for a 100,000 square foot building that will house the only medical school between New York City and Albany. Offering undergraduate and graduate medical education and residency programs, the Marist HealthQuest School of Medicine will truly define Poughkeepsie as the leading location for medical training in a new state-of-the-art facility. I also want to mention our partners at Mid-Hudson Regional and what they're doing there. Even though that hospital is about 50 feet north of the city, that's one of our hospitals too. Let's give them a round of applause. You know, when we talk about the investments that are made in healthcare, whether it is HealthQuest and Marist and Vassar, Mid-Hudson Regional, all of our partnerships with our anchor institutions, it's demonstrating how everyone is investing and invested in the city of Poughkeepsie. Now, to accommodate this unprecedented level of development, and I would say it is, our planning and development staff has grown in the last year. It's a far cry from a few short years ago when we didn't have a planning department at all. This year, funded by a grant from Dutchess County, we've engaged the Pace University Land Use Law Center to conduct a review and analysis of the city's process, policies, and procedures surrounding applications for building permits, site plan approvals, and related public request for service. The PACE review compares our current practices to best practices around the country and will lead to recommendations that will be a roadmap for organizational change. Increasing, you can clap, because we're looking forward to that. It's going to increase our efficiency and improve our service to the community. And again, can you imagine if we hadn't done that? So today, our city once again has capacity to usher projects small and large through the approvals process. And we know what we need to do this year to build on that progress. The Common Council recently approved the new Poughkeepsie Innovation District zoning for the city's downtown. This will make getting projects approved in this key area of the city more streamlined and not a moment too soon. City staff are fielding calls on a regular basis from persons interested in long vacant sites. And with Rhinebeck Bank partnering with the city to make $3 million available for small business loans in the Innovation District, we are more poised than ever to see this growth. And I want to thank Mike Quinn and Rhinebeck Bank for making that commitment to the city of Poughkeepsie. $3 million is a lot of money. Many sites are already under redevelopment. Queen City Lofts on Main and Bridge Streets is near completion and in the process of leasing its residential and commercial space. The One Dutchess Avenue project on the northern waterfront is well underway with its first phase of development, including 140 residential units. In the Middle Main District, our partners at Hudson River Housing are building 78 new supportive housing units on Rose Street. In the heart of downtown, 40 Cannon Street has been transformed from a long vacant eyesore to an anchor on that block with apartments, a brewery, a wine bar, a coffee shop, and an art gallery. At the corner of Mill and Catherine, the proposed Crandall Square project will bring needed new residential density with this mixed income project. In all, the city has more than 1,000 housing units and more than 1 million square feet of commercial space that is either recently come online under construction, or in the development pipeline. But we will not measure success solely by the number of cranes in the air. We will engage in a solution-minded conversation about the risks that accompany development booms. We've seen some examples of those risks here in the past. Remembering the formation of the main mall that turned that part of Main Street into a desolate area. The creation of the arterial highways that have severed neighborhoods, and other ill-advised ventures, the cost of which we all know too well. Risks lurk among all this good news. The risk of a decline in affordable housing, risks to home ownership as property values rise, and we must remain vigilant to ensure our city does not just become another bedroom community as development marches up the Hudson River. Let me be clear. These are not issues that divide us. These are issues that unite us. What we cannot do is nothing, right? We can't do that. For I can tell you with certainty, though, while change is inevitable, the kind of change is not. There is still so much to be done. We began work on a major update to our local waterfront revitalization plan that was last updated in 1998. And this year, we will begin the long-delayed update to our city's comprehensive plan. That's a 2-year effort that will also update a document from 1998 and will guide our path forward for the next 10 years. And we will work inclusively and renewed vigor to finally bring a conclusion on our city's long debate surrounding the southern waterfront. And these are not simple tasks, and many of you will contribute to their completion. But as your mayor, I've set these priorities, and with your help, we will achieve them. And now I want to thank someone who helps me set my priorities and keeps me focused, and that is my wife, Flurry, who is sitting right over there. Who loves this city as much as I do. You know, challenges in how we face them are often our defining moments. The most rewarding of our accomplishments are usually the hardest of our achievements. That's the thing about community. We come together to cheer our victories, but we also come together to tackle the big issues. We're not afraid to wrestle with complex challenges, and we will not pause in our pursuit of solutions. So speaking of victories, we've had a big one here in the city of Poughkeepsie. We have with us tonight a group of young men They epitomize what working together is all about. It isn't easy. It requires leadership, great coaching, teamwork, and tireless focus, and so much more. And let me tell you, I think there's a lot we can learn from these young men. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our city's, your city's, Coach Cody Moffitt and the group, Poughkeepsie High School basketball team, New York State Class A champions. They are state champions.
One time.
Good to see you, number one. Yes, they are. I could say so many things about these young men and what it has meant to me, not just the city, to watch that playoff sectional championship run. I was at all 8 games. And what I saw was, again, something that we can all take stock in. When you're playing at that level and you're playing other teams that are pretty darn good, but not good enough, that these games have an ebb and flow to it. They come out strong, the other team comes back, a lot of close games at halftime, but the one thing that I knew and definitely now know, is these guys are a third and fourth quarter team, and they would find a way to win. But the one thing they didn't find a way to do, because they were doing it all the time, is they supported one another. And I saw it. And I got to really see it as I went to more games. They didn't get down. They didn't lose their cool. They stood by one another. A little fist bump once in a while, a little pat here, a little pat there, or just that look between them saying, it's okay, we're going to make something happen. And obviously the fans that were at these games cheering them on and making sure that they knew that Poughkeepsie was in the house, and believe me, Poughkeepsie was in the house all over. And it just was remarkable in that I felt, wow, every game they just hung in, and they just found a way to get it done. And even after some of the toughest games that they had, they didn't really go crazy. They brought it down because they knew what the goal at the end of the run was going to be, and that was becoming state champions, which they did. And gentlemen, coaches, thank you for doing that for this city. Thank you for doing that for yourself, but also thank you for doing it for the school district. And think of all the individuals now that are looking up to you. I know you're going to get recognized next week, and we are working on the final plans of a date to have the best parade that we can have in the city of Poughkeepsie for our state champions. I'm going to leave you with this. You have made all of us, and especially me, a better person in seeing how you've played as a team. And that's something that I will never forget, and this city will never forget either. Thank you very much, guys. Let's give these guys another round of applause as they get off this stage. So we're ready to wrap it up here. Even though I would love to continue to talk, you know, when you prepare these State of the City addresses, there's so many things you want to talk about, then you got to bring it down, otherwise you may go longer than Mark Molinaro did in the State of the County. Where am I at now? About 40 minutes? Okay, because I think he went 60. But then again, the county's bigger than the city, but not in heart. You know, 4 years ago, we accepted the challenge, a considerable challenge to turn the city's misfortunes into something more positive. And today, Poughkeepsie has momentum. And what's so inspiring to me about that momentum is how that vibrancy is expanding and how it fuels our expectations for the years ahead. There is a flurry of activity at City Hall. There is a real buzz in that building. I know it because I'm there. There is an energy and enthusiasm that was not there 3 years ago. And for the first time in a while, a mayor, me, can stand before you and tell you that the state of our city is strong. And I'm really happy to say that. The results of our efforts are real. They're measurable, and if you take a look around, you can feel it. You can feel it in the room tonight. The resurgence of Poughkeepsie, it rests not in the hands of one individual or one group of people. The credit belongs to all those who work and live here, all those who made the decision to invest in our community, whether by purchasing a home, fixing up a property, or starting a business. The credit belongs to the 365 employees of this great city who take pride in their work and service to our community every single day. The credit belongs to the more than 30,000 residents who call Poughkeepsie home and share our passion to work together for a common good. But really, the credit belongs to you. And just imagine what we'll do together in the coming years. God bless this great city of Poughkeepsie, and thanks for being here tonight.